everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Katarina. Today's video is going to be an update for my Pan Those eyeshadows, and last month I started doing prep my Pan That palette for next year. So I'm really excited to film this video. I have hit 2 pans this past month, 1 bonus pan and 1 pan in my Pan Those eyeshadows. But before getting into the video, excuse my voice. I don't know why, but I kinda lost my voice a couple of days ago. I'm not sick, but my voice is just a little bit rough. Another thing, right now I am not wearing any eyeshadow on my daily basis, so my uses are actually really low this time. Typically I wear eyeshadow every single day, but just right now in the summer, if it is bright outside and especially if it is like bright, sunny and windy at the same time, my eyes get really watery, and anyways I need to get ready extremely fast in the mornings, so it is not realistic to wear any eyeshadow. I do just a really natural no makeup look, so at the moment I only wear eyeshadow for filming and special occasion, but considering that, I do think I have surprisingly good progress. Okay, so let's start with the Prep My Pan That palette project. So I decided that my next year's Pan That palette is going to be my Juvia's Placed Nubian 2 eyeshadow palette. In my last update I do explain why, but basically this is my oldest pre-made eyeshadow palette in my collection and I thought it is time to work on this. However, not all of the shades in here are something that I realistically would like to pan. So because of that, I want to pick 2 shades each month to focus on, and my goal is simply to use the eyeshadow enough to decide if I want to keep it in this palette, if I want to pan it next year. Honestly, I don't think it's realistic for me to finish any of the eyeshadows because these eyeshadows are huge, but I still want to work on the palette. So if the eyeshadow is not something that realistically I want to use, then I'm just going to crush the eyeshadow out of the palette. The first 2 shades that I decided to work on are Jezebel in here and Zuri over here. I will by the way show you swatches of my full color story, including these 2 shades plus my Pan Those eyeshadows shades. So first, Jezebel. This one is a purpley shade. I do think it's rather warm. It's not cool toned and I do not like this eyeshadow. I'm going to declutter it. I wore it 2 times in June. The first time I tried to do as wearable and as little bit of purple look as I possibly can, because in general purple is not a color that I enjoy on myself. So I paired it with Madagascar and Kenya, and then I did wear a matte cream from my singles all over my lid. So that kind of all matte neutral look is what I typically would do on everyday basis. It's a really no-brainer look and I think typically it looks really nice, but I just didn't like Jezebel hair. So already that time I decided I'm not going to keep this. I still decided to wear it another time though. It was in my lip project pan video. I wore this with a light peach eyeshadow from my singles. In general I do think a color combination of peach and purple is really pretty, but is it something that I enjoy doing on myself anymore? No. So yeah, this eyeshadow, I just don't like it. I do not want to keep it. However, Zuri I am absolutely going to keep. Zuri I wore 3 times in June, today being the 3rd time. I am wearing it kind of like in the inner part of my lid and then in the inner corner. So this one is a kind of neutral gold eyeshadow, really light. So my favorite way to wear Zuri is as an inner corner highlighter, but also I do think it works as a lid shade. Maybe it is nicer as a lid shade if I don't have any tan because it is so pale. And yeah, another way that I do like to wear Zuri is that if I go in with a lid shade that just feels a little bit too dark, then I can try to brighten and lighten it with Zuri. So this is a really useful shade that I for sure do want to keep in this palette. And by the way, on Zuri I had pan before this project. Then let's move on to the shades that I have decided to pick for July, and those shades are Nefertiti over here and Egypt. And these 2 shades look a little bit rough. Let me show you, and that is because my daughter got her hands on this palette a few months ago. It was actually a little bit hard for me to pick the shades for July. I knew that I want to go for Nefertiti. I'm actually going to swatch these, but I'm going to show you all of the swatches like in the end of the video. So Nefertiti is kind of like an orangey shimmer, orangey golden shimmer. I actually do think it's really pretty. Then the second shade was a little bit more difficult for me to pick. Of course it would go with Morocco, but honestly I'm not into super bright looks anymore. I don't see myself wearing Morocco and Nefertiti together really ever. Eventually I just went for Egypt as the second shade because honestly none of the other shades I want to pick for right now. I do have another cream that I'm working on in my Pan Those Eyeshadows, so this is for sure going to take uses away from that. However, I actually think it's maybe a good thing to have both of these in this project at once so that I can compare them. Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. I just don't ever wear green eyeshadow, but it's so freaking pretty. So yeah, I think both of these eyeshadows are something that I honestly don't know what to expect. Realistically, I wouldn't wear them on my daily basis, but I do still like them. I could get some use out of them, so I'm really excited to use them now in July, and we'll see if I'm going to keep them or not. Then let's move on to the Pan Those Eyeshadows. So from my singles palette, this one is a palette from Tarte. They don't have this palette anymore, but this is just so pretty. I really do love this palette, and this is really nice size. From this palette I am working on the shade Jezebel. That is a single from Makeup Geek. Most of the eyeshadows here are depotted. I actually think there's only a couple of shades that are purchased singles, and this one is one of them. It's actually really interesting to swatch this one right now next to Egypt. And yeah, these are actually really different. Egypt is way darker. However, I'm not expecting myself to use Chester too many times in July because I do want to have the focus on Egypt. Oh, by the way, I didn't even mention, unfortunately, I didn't wear Chester at once in June. As I said, I don't wear eyeshadow on my everyday basis right now, and then when I have done looks for special occasions for filming, I just have not felt like I want to wear this eyeshadow. So I only do have 2 uses on this eyeshadow right now. And I almost forgot, I did hit a bonus pan on this palette. So I was able to hit pan on this eyeshadow over here. This one is depotted from the Balm Meet Matte Trimony eyeshadow palette. And this eyeshadow is called Matte Lin. And it is a matte light kind of skin tone-ish shade. I actually think it was the first look I created after filming my May update that I did hit pan on this. Really excited to have another pan on my singles because most of these are really old. This is something that I probably should pan after doing the Juvia's Place palette, but I want to do that next year. Alright, let's move on. I do have 2 of these Huda Beauty 9 pan palettes. First is the Gold Obsessions, and I actually got to randomize a new shade from both of these palettes last month. So the shade that I got from this palette was the 7th shade. I was able to hit pan on that. The picture just seems to be a little bit blurry, but I hope you can see it. So, you know, the thing with these Huda Beauty shades is that they're not deep at all, and I think the shimmers are typically not too difficult. There are some shimmers here that are harder, but some of her shimmers are really creamy and really easy to hit pan on. This one is a light kind of shimmery pinky shade, and I used it 4 times to hit pan. But this eyeshadow I didn't use after I hit pan on it because it is really light and it's kind of like a frosty shade, and then because it's pink, I just don't think it's a shade that I enjoy in summer. I can see myself finishing this shade actually, because this one would do as a beautiful all over lid shade in winter when I don't have any tan and when I want to go for that kind of like frosty champagne pink look. I think I wore it a couple of times as a lid shade, and I just felt that since I do have some tan right now that it is just too frosty. So the other 2 times I wore it as an inner corner highlighter and I was able to hit pan. My goal for my Pan Those Eyeshadows is 10 uses, but if I do hit pan before that, then I can of course roll the eyeshadow out. So this is actually the only goal met on my Pan Those Eyeshadows, but I'm excited to roll in a new eyeshadow from this palette. But before that, I do have a couple of other palettes. And one other 9-pan palette from Huda Beauty. This is the Toffee Brown Obsessions, and I really do love this color story. This will be a perfect palette for me in fall. From this palette, I am working on the third shade, and actually this eyeshadow I had in this project in January too. But yeah, there's some wear, but even though I have gotten some use out of it, there's not even a dent. Because these mats are really hard pressed, but I still do like them really much. I actually would like to get to 10 uses with this eyeshadow in July, but we'll see. It would mean that I need to use it 6 times. And I don't think 6 uses is that much, but considering the fact that I don't wear eyeshadow on my daily basis right now, and I really want to have focus on these greens, and also like the other Juvia's Place eyeshadow, the orange, although that would go for sure with this eyeshadow. But yeah, I don't know, maybe it would be a stretch to get to 10 uses with this. We'll see, we'll see. I might get there, I might not. And then last but not least is my ABH Soft Glam eyeshadow palette. From this palette I am working on the shade Bronze, which is a little bit darker gold over here. Nowhere near of hitting pan yet. So yeah, Bronze I'm actually wearing today as my lid shade. Then on the inner part of the lid I do have a little bit of Suri. It is a really beautiful golden toned eyeshadow. Specifically now that I have tan, I really do enjoy it. But if I don't have any tan, it can pull a little bit dark on me. But right now it's the type of gold that I really do love. I wore it twice in June, and in total in this project I have worn it 5 times. So we are 5 uses away from 10 uses. Okay, but before picking the new shade from the Huda Beauty Gold palette, let's quickly go over my pan percentage. Usually I forget to talk about this in these videos, but now I remember. So because I'm going to declutter the shade Isabel from my collection, it's no longer counted towards my pan percentage, and it's not in my inventory anymore. So I do have now 58 eyeshadows in my collection. I was able to hit 2 new pans in June, so the Balm Matte Lin from my singles palette, and then the Huda Beauty eyeshadow from the gold palette. So in total I do have now 9 eyeshadow pans out of my 58 eyeshadows. So that makes my pan percentage 15.52. Last month my pan percentage was 11.82, so pretty big increase there. Because my collection is not huge anymore, even 1 pan makes quite nice increase in the pan percentage, and I decluttered 1 eyeshadow, so yeah, that also helps. So really happy with that. So yeah, now we get to randomize a new eyeshadow from my Huda Beauty Gold Obsessions eyeshadow palette. And I have decluttered 1 eyeshadow from this palette, and then now we do have 1 pan on this eyeshadow, so I don't want to randomize shades that have pan on them. And by the way, I think I forgot to mention that in this project I'm always working on 1 eyeshadow from each of my palettes. But yeah, I do have numbers from 1 through 7 in my Pretty Random app. If I get something that is too similar for another shade I'm already working on, then I'm going to re-roll, but let's see what we get. Number 3, I don't think that's going to be anything too similar. Oh no. So 1, 2, 3, that is a lighter shimmer. It's actually a little bit dirty right now. It has some of those like matte peaches in there. But this one is like more cool toned lid shade, and this is one of those Huda Beauty shimmers that are a little bit harder. I think Alexandra panned this eyeshadow palette, was it last year? And if I remember correctly, she referred to this eyeshadow like something taupe. Yeah, this one is a really kind of like neutral. I don't think it's like straight up cool, but it's not warm at least. Pretty neutral. I actually think this would be a really nice everyday lid shade. I don't think I have worn this eyeshadow too many times, so it's really nice to test it properly. I think it's going to take at least a couple of months for me to get to 10 uses with this, but I'm not that much in a hurry. But yeah, let me then still swatch the other shades that I am working on in this project. I want to swatch these eyeshadows in this order because I always talk about them in this order, because we are going kind of like from old to new. Okay, so here we go. As you can see, my color story is kind of like a nice combination of some neutral and colorful tones this time. For the next month, I would like to get the 10 uses up with either the Huda Beauty matte or then the ABH bronze, because I don't wear eyeshadow on my daily basis right now. It might be a stretch, but the most important thing for me right now is to, you know, get good use out of the Prep My Pan That palette shades. I don't have any usage goal, I just want to know if it is something I want to keep. And as I said, both of these eyeshadows are something that I'm kinda on a hence about. Like, I do think they are pretty, but I don't think if they are realistic eyeshadows for me to be working on, so we'll see. But that is everything for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know if you're doing Pan Those Eyeshadows or other eyeshadow panning projects. I would love to check yours out. Thank you for watching and see you in my next one. Bye bye.